The South China Sea is eerily silent then in a flash. Alarms blare, radars light up, and the USS Ronald Reagan has only seconds to react. This isn't reality, but a single misstep, a stray missile, could ignite a global catastrophe. Step 1. Shut down all communication channels, switch to full encryption, and activate the comprehensive air defense grid. Destroyers and cruisers sweep the skies and seas for any threats. The Reagan launches drones and E-2D Hawkeye early warning aircraft into the air. If China plans a second strike, they'll have no element of surprise left. Meanwhile, F/A-18S and F-35S from the Reagan have taken off. Their mission: reconnaissance, target lock, and if necessary, strike back without mercy. And the US won't hit blindly. China's radars on Hainan Island are the first targets. A single tomahawk from a US destroyer can wipe out command stations from hundreds of miles away. Can you guess what's coming next? Drop your prediction in the comments. The Philippines can't stay on the sidelines either. US bases recently reactivated here sit near Chinese-occupied islands. An attack on a US carrier could trigger direct joint operations combined patrols. Air support launched from Philippine territory. And in such a scenario, a regional war has officially begun. But things get even more complicated. If NATO or US officers aboard the carrier are coordinating with allies, it's no longer a bilateral issue. Article 5 of NATO may not trigger an immediate response, but just one linked node is enough to unleash a storm of political, military, and intelligence reactions spiraling beyond control. And their top target? The US aircraft carrier. The attack would start from far away with carrier killers, like the YJ-21, a hypersonic missile that can travel at 10 times the speed of sound. It slices through defenses like a blade through paper, and by the time the crew realizes what's happening, it's already too late. And that's not all. There's the DF-21D and DF-26, ballistic missiles with ranges over 1,500 miles. They're not just meant to strike, they're designed to sink. Alongside them come H-6 bombers, carrying air-launched ballistic missiles like the KD-21. These are long-range pinpoint strikes planned with ruthless precision. But even that's not enough. China also has stealth submarines, armed with torpedoes and cruise missiles, capable of silently closing in on the US fleet. They train in swarm tactics, attacking from every direction with missiles, drones, and ballistic strikes. And then there are silent weapons, cyber attacks. Blinding US radars for just 30 seconds could be enough to trigger disaster. This is no longer theoretical. All those weapons are ready. Their sole purpose: to make the US think twice before sending ships into contested waters. And now comes the hard question. Will China dare fire the first shot? Or is it all just a bluff? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this scenario could become reality faster than you think. But the US isn't showing up to this fight empty-handed. Every aircraft carrier sails with a full escort, fleet cruisers, destroyers, fast attack submarines, and a squadron of fighter jets. It's a mobile fortress with a 360-degree shield. At its heart, beasts like the USS Gerald R. Ford or Ronald Reagan built to dominate the skies. And the real miracle isn't just on the flight deck. Deep below lies the true brain, the Aegis combat system. It can track over 100 targets at once and respond in a split second. Incoming missile at Mach 5, Aegis has already calculated the intercept point before you can even blink. This is warfare at the speed of light, where there's no room for mistakes. When missiles come flying in, the SM-2 and SM-6 are the first line of defense. The SM-6 can take down anything from ballistic missiles to enemy aircraft. Closer in, Sea Sparrow handles incoming threats that slip through. And if all else fails, the Phalanx, CIW's firing, 4,500 rounds per minute treads anything that gets too close, a storm of bullets to keep the deck secure. And when the threat comes from the deep, Virginia-class attack submarines become the enemy's worst nightmare. They silently track, shadow every move, and unleash torpedoes the moment the order is given. If a Chinese sub gets close, it will never see the one that strikes the final blow because by then, it's far too late to fight back. Now, imagine that quiet night turning into a nightmare. "2 a.m. The South China Sea is calm. The USS Ronald Reagan patrols 150 miles off Taiwan's coast. No one suspects the storm that's coming. On the Chinese mainland, a DF-21D missile rolls onto its launcher. In the sky, an H-6 bomber climbs. And somewhere, the launch order is whispered in the dark. No alarms, no warnings, no negotiations. The DF-21D leaves its launcher, soars into the stratosphere, then dives like a spear toward its target. At the same time, the H-6 bomber fires a KD-21 from a safe distance, and from warships, a swarm of YJ-18S streak just above the sea surface. Aboard the Reagan, it takes less than 5 seconds for radar to detect the incoming threat. Just one mistake-owned stray missile could drag the entire world into war. The question is, are we alert enough or sleepwalking into disaster? If you found this video helpful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. The 2nd of July, 2025. A sudden steel storm erupted from North Korea. 24 ballistic missiles screamed through the sky, accompanied by waves of fighter jets charging straight toward the USS Gerald R. Ford, the most advanced floating fortress ever built by man, a $13.2 billion pride of the U.S. Navy. In an instant, the ship's ultra-advanced radar system locked onto the deadly signals, slicing through the sky like supersonic spears, a clear warning that a life-or-death showdown is fast approaching. If you want to truly understand the conflicts that are reshaping the world second by second, subscribe to the channel now so you won't miss a single sharp strategic military insight in this era of high-tech warfare. On the deck of the USS Gerald R. Ford, sailors stood tense in silence, bracing for the worst, a collision that could ignite the spark of a war the entire world had desperately tried to avoid. But what truly sparked this catastrophic fury? Why did North Korea, after secretly deploying 30,000 troops to support Russia on the European front, suddenly turn and unleash a brutal assault on America's nuclear carrier strike group? Was this merely an act of self-defense, or the opening move in a far colder, far more ruthless retaliation? What happened next shook the entire world. 45 military installations wiped out within hours, and over $1 trillion erased from global markets overnight. The curtain is about to rise on the greatest confrontation of the modern era. In late June 2025, while the world was still reeling from North Korea's unexpected decision to deploy 30,000 troops to Ukraine, the sharpest eyes in the Pentagon began to see what others hadn't yet grasped. This wasn't just a political move, it was a calculated probe testing the red line. On satellite screens, columns of armored vehicles bearing the emblem of the Korean People's Army rumbled across Siberia, the imagery as clear as each tense breath inside the command room. There was no longer any doubt. Pyongyang had chosen its side. In Washington, the president ordered the urgent deployment of Carrier Strike Group 5, the USS Gerald R. Ford, a 100,000-ton block of steel worth $13 billion, surged toward the Sea of Japan like a ticking time machine. Accompanying it were 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, each equipped with the Aegis system, scanning the skies in 360 degrees and calculating threats down to the millisecond. And when the Ford appeared off the coast of the Korean peninsula, no declaration was needed. The silent rotation of its radar alone was enough to make all of East Asia hold its breath. At 2:14 a.m., the northeastern sky suddenly tore open with 24 streaks of light, medium-range ballistic missiles launched from underground coastal silos in North Korea, shooting into the stratosphere like blades stabbing into the darkness. Aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford, a piercing alarm blared across the deck as officers rushed into the combat control room. The radar screen lit up in crimson, data points blinking rapidly, calculations firing off in nanoseconds. The SM-6 battery aboard the USS Chaffee opened fire, each missile blasting into the sky at 3 times the speed of sound, guided by cutting-edge active electronically scanned array radar. The sky lit up like it was on fire. Rams, Rolling airframe missiles roared to life, tearing through the night air like spears of pure light. In that moment, every thunderous explosion made a soldier's heart tighten. Even falling debris was shredded midair by the CIWS 6-barrel Gatling guns, firing at 4,500 rounds per minute. The entire battle lasted 9 minutes and 42 seconds. But for those on the deck, it felt like a never-ending nightmare where life hung on each radar pulse and every line of code. 3:47 a.m. The order to strike back was confirmed. The flight deck of the USS Gerald R. Ford lit up as waves of F-35C fighters roared into the sky, tearing through the night with piercing screams. Each jet carried Stormbreaker smart bombs and AMRAAM missiles, pre-programmed with pinpoint coordinates. Beneath the waves, a Virginia-class submarine opened its launch tubes 12. Tomahawks surged upward, skimming low across the terrain like high-speed falcons. Overhead, an E-2D Hawkeye the entire operation, every second timed like a heartbeat, not a single miscalculation. And in that darkness, American technology began to illuminate the sky with destruction. Within just 42 minutes of the first wave of phases, were simultaneously wiped out. Tomahawks pierced through missile storage bunkers, while Stormbreakers slipped silently through treetops, striking hidden launch platforms with surgical precision. Each impact was a clean, devastating explosion, spaced like the rhythm of a heart that had suddenly stopped casting fiery reflections onto the low-hanging clouds above. Satellite images appeared cold and haunting, a stretch of the eastern coast blanketed in black smoke and craters. In the command room, pilots barely had time to remove their helmets before receiving new orders to rearm and relaunch every breath. Now a calculation between life and death. In response, the USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group moved in, joining forces with the Gerald R. Ford forming a combined formation, armed with over 700 vertical launch cells, ready to unleash Tomahawks, SM-6S, or ASROCs at a moment's notice. Radars scanned in layered sweeps. Underwater sonars locked onto every movement. Every shift was tracked. Every electrical pulse held the tension of a finger tightening on a trigger, and the world held its breath, waiting for a single misstep to shatter the balance. The USS Florida submarine launched its first salvo. 30 Tomahawk Block 5 missiles burst through the ocean's surface, slicing through the air like steel blades. They raced toward northern Russia, hugging the terrain at just 100 feet above ground, slipping past radar in absolute silence. Each missile was equipped with advanced terrain contour matching and anti-jamming navigation, flying with pinpoint accuracy down to the meter. Overhead, EA-18G Growlers jammed enemy signals, scrambling Russian control screens into chaos. In the darkness, these silent yet razor-sharp strikes carved open a path into Murman, a zone where every second had been pre-programmed for destruction. Seven 15 a.m. After 5 relentless hours of airstrikes, Murman, the northern stronghold of Russia, was reduced to a maze of ash and ruin. From above, E-2D Hawkeyes captured the aftermath. Shattered S-400 air defense systems, radar stations gone dark, the entire power grid down. Not a single American fighter jet was lost. Not one Russian surface-to-air missile found its mark. Modern warfare isn't measured by the roar of gunfire. It's defined by data streams and radar signals, sharp as a scalpel. When decisions made hundreds of miles away can burn an entire battlefield to the ground in minutes, only one question remains: who will control the final heartbeat?